Welcome back to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. And it has been a minute. I've been trying to get David Burns on the show for a while. I think he was shy like me. He's like, hey, I'm not going to get on social media. I'm not going to do it. Well, welcome, Dave. I'm excited to have you.
It's good to be here, I think. This is, I kind of usually keep my face hidden. So.
Yeah. You a little nervous?
A little bit.
Oh, no, you'll be good. So I want to go down the journey on, you have a very successful business. I mean, you finish in the top in the country, 1 or 2 overall. You and your agency, you've got a couple of mainstream ideas. But first of all, I want to talk about the journey, how you got there. So did you say, I want to be in the insurance industry? I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner. I want to have, thousands of agents. I mean, how did that journey start? I mean, you can start when you were a little kid sometime. I mean,
great question. Yeah. No. Well, I'll go to the little kid.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, we had 7 kids. My dad worked for the government. Money was always an issue.
Oh.
And so it was pretty early on that something in my head said, I don't want money to be an issue in my life. And so I kind of made the decision early that I wanted to be successful financially. I think that's an important thing for people to actually decide, hey, I want a different lifestyle than what most people have.
It's similar to me. My parents always made sure I had a roof over my head, food in my mouth, clothes on my back. But if it was something above and beyond that, it was my responsibility.
Yeah.
And my mom would teach me how to go and get it.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, my parents are the greatest people in the world.
Yeah.
My heroes. I just knew that I didn't want to have like budget constraints the way I had as a kid. I still remember my dad giving my mom an envelope of cash. And I remember as a young kid just thinking, well, what if that cash is gone?
Wow.
Just little things that it's funny how they train you for money. And so ultimately I went and served a 2-year LDS mission in Venezuela, came back, and actually continued my door knocking career selling alarm systems door to door.
Oh, wow.
So I did that for 2 summers, made more in college than I did in the first couple of years of insurance combined. Like I had made $48,000 as a young 21, 22-year-old kid in a summertime. And that was when in my head I was like, okay, I'm never going to work for somebody. I'm going to create it through my own efforts.
So you had that mentality at a young age, and which is important. I think it's important for young children to set those goals early. And what do they want that to look like? And so did you always? You said college there. Did you plan on going to college, or did you just?
I did. Yeah, graduated from Brigham Young University, and it was interesting that 2-year mission was something very important to me. Still is to this day. And I remember one of my mentors was my mission president. And I said, okay, whatever that guy does for a living, that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, wow.
And that guy, my mission president, actually was in the insurance industry. And so I got into the insurance industry primarily through life insurance.
Okay.
And it was interesting. He told me something. I was 24 years old. I've never forgot it. I've lived by it. I still believe it. And he told me, he said, if you work 10 years like nobody else will, you'll live the rest of your life like nobody else can. And I remember,
that's chills, baby.
Yeah, and it's truth. I was 24. I took it to heart, and I said, okay, I'm on my 10-year version. 10-year mission. I'll live 10 years like nobody else will, and started in the insurance business. Interesting though, my first 12 months, remember what I had made as a college student, my first 12 months in the insurance industry, I made $17,000. As a college graduate, in a full year, I made more going to school in a summer. And I was like, man, I suck at insurance.
Well, you stuck it out.
So the next 12 months, kind of interesting, I made $21,000. I'm a newlywed. I think my wife's looking at me like, are we ever going to have money? We were broke.
I remember those days.
Yeah, it was awesome. But had my first kid. I also for me, I was going to be a financial planner, financial advisor. So that's really what I had started doing, with kind of an emphasis on insurance, life insurance. And that's actually when I found Medicare too,
Okay.
way back in like 2004, 2005. My business partner, Chris Phelps, I lived in his mom's basement. And, and I remember he was like, "You have an insurance license? You should offer this. It actually doesn't cost them any money." I was like, "What?" Because people were getting denied because of health conditions.
Yeah,
So they
that's the
didn't want to
big,
pay
yeah.
the premiums. So that's actually how I found my way into Medicare, clear back in 2005.
You're living in somebody's basement, mom and dad, you're living in a basement, trying to figure it out, and somebody says, "Hey, you should look at this."
Yep. Yeah.
So did you immediately jump in, or you just kind of did you look at it, or I mean, did you?
No, yeah. I mean, I was so broke. I was like looking into everything, working, figured, okay, I'm going to work 10 years like nobody else will. And so started offering Medicare health insurance. It was interesting. What I found once I started doing Medicare is if I could get somebody to trust me with their health care decision, I could usually get them to trust me with their retirement funds as well.
Mm-hmm.
And built up a pretty great financial planning practice for 20 years, utilizing Medicare primarily as a marketing tool to kind of pick up clientele.
Well, and I think you recently told me you ended up selling off the financial service book of business.
I did, yeah, yep. It was funny. I started Retirement Health Solutions. Chris and I started that back in 2009, long time.
Uh-huh.
And the idea was every financial advisor should do this, because I had now done it for 4 or 5 years with some great success. And so the initial premise of our agency was, we're going to go get every financial advisor to offer Medicare.
Oh,
And
yeah.
within the first like month and a half, 2 months, it was like 45 agents that were all financial advisors that I knew in the industry.
Wow.
And we were off and rolling. That was actually when we started a partnership with Mountain America Credit Union here in Utah, offering Medicare services inside that institution as well. It was interesting. If you remember that year, 09, 2010, somewhere in there, they came out with something called AHIP.
Yes.
And all the certifications and all of the, added regulation to offer Medicare. So most planners were like, forget this stuff. I'm going to like do my thing. And hey, can I just refer you my Medicare business?
Yeah.
So I kind of continued writing policies, mostly from referral from other financial planners that didn't want to write it themselves.
Wow. It's so interesting everybody finds their niche, right? At some point. I don't think you grow up like, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Like I fell into the insurance industry after losing everything. You had the guy you had the mission president that said, hey, work 10 years like nobody else will to live a lifestyle people that, will dream of, right? And that's so true. I think people, when it gets tough, people work 40 years to build somebody else's dreams, 40 years to hopefully at the end of the day have a 401k, be able to live on retirement and sell off into the sunset. But, you and I deal with people all the time. They're going back to work.
Yep. And being a financial planner for 20 years was probably the best education I could have ever personally received. Watching people retire, helping them retire. I helped and watched big executives that had millions of dollars retire and then almost get institutionalized from depression and
lost their purpose.
And so, it's interesting that first saying, I'll work 10 years. Like, the reality is now I like to work. I love to work.
Mm-hmm.
Some people golf, some people travel. I golf, I travel, sure, but I also love to work. And some people paint, Picasso, right? And my work is my art. It's what I have passion doing. It's what I love doing, and it's I still work crazy hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe at heart I'm just a grinder. But I enjoy it. And now my purpose is different. We have, like we've got several Medicare agents and insurance agents, and And I need to formalize it, but in my head there's probably close to 50 agents now that will make over $100,000 on January 1. They'll wake up, and whether or not they go to work, they've got that income coming in.
Yeah.
And for me now, that's my passion. That's my artwork.
Yeah.
And that's where I get fulfillment and joy, is watching lives change and kind of being a coach in a sense.
There's I look at the journey, and at first somebody told me, Ty, if you go out and sell a policy and you get a high from selling that policy, you're in the right industry. So if you're selling cars and you sell that car and you get that high, that adrenaline rush, it was different when I'm like, okay, I'm not going to personally produce anymore. I do a little bit, but not at the scale I was doing. And I'm like I went out and helped somebody last week, and I walked out of that house, and the agent said, hey, we make a good team. And I just smiled, because I would do that for days, like days with agents out in the field, right? But now it's like it's like, okay, how many people can I help be financially free? And you, like me, I have people that support a golf habit. That's their financial, that's their definition of wealth, right?
Yeah.
It isn't
Yeah.
making $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. It's just that little increment. And you know what? If they're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah. And everybody's why and purpose is different. You got to find your own. I got one agent. He's like one of my favorite people in the world. He's like, bro, you'd be so proud of me. I worked like 3 days this month. And he's like a professional pickleball player. Like, he's so good, right? He's like, bro, the guy has the greatest lifestyle in the world, and he's as happy as anyone I've ever met. And it's so fun to just share his journey, right?
Yeah.
And
I want to talk a little bit about recruiting, because you recruit a little bit different than I do. And everybody says, I want this, they have a vision of who they want on their team, right? And I've been surprised about people that I thought were going to be that guy that's going to go out and kill it, and then the one that is a sleeper and they go out and kill it.
Yeah.
So in recruiting efforts, you've done really well recruiting some younger agents, as well as female agents, and building teams around that. What inspired that?
Yeah, great question. Some of the and a lot of the first, we had a couple of, I'll call it, really successful moms, and their passion was actually more in helping other moms do what they found joy and pleasure in. So a lot of it's been a lot of credit to them on what they've done. But that's been like the most beautiful thing to be a part of. Just last week, I had a story with 2 different agents, both single moms. One, recently divorced, and I said, "Holy cow, you're gonna make over $100,000 next year." Her eyes lit up like, "I am." I'm like, "Yeah, look what you've done." And if you just simply even do a portion of that, this annual enrollment period, you'll make over $100,000 next year. And the reality sunk in, like, she's going to make over $100,000 that year. And just the happiness to, I think obviously finances have been a stress in her life.
Sure.
She's got children that she wants to provide for, and she's doing it and able to do it on her terms with her schedule. That was one. And I actually had another one as well. Very similar story, where she's actually married, but and I could go on with stories for days and days, but her husband's work's a little bit in flux right now, and the fact that she's been able to provide this incredible industry, that their family is financially stable regardless of what happens with her husband's work.
Yeah.
And that's the joy of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the passion about this industry and what it can do for people.
It goes to building a legacy. We're transforming that family's life and building a legacy for them. And you and I grew up, and we had a mentor, Ron, and Ron used to always say is that you owe it to that individual when they decide to go to work until they quit. And I remember the first time he said that to me, he's like, I'm like, how do I know when they quit? And all he said is, you'll know. And isn't that true?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
not a lot. I mean, I don't have a lot of people agents quit, right? They may not be full-time agents. They may do it during AEP, but I've also been, because I'll do part-time, full-time, or sometime. But there has been a few agents that have quit. They just they didn't grind those first 2 or 3 years.
yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I have one agent. He ended up getting another job, but because of the way that we kind of helped him set up his own business, he had like 65, 70 policies. He sold it for like over $30,000 that he used for a down payment on his house. So not only
Wow.
did he get paid for writing those initial policies, he had an asset that was marketable that he could sell, and it was a huge blessing in his life.
Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest joys of what I do and you do for a living is just being able to share that journey and see people do that. It's incredible.
Sure. Let's fast forward a little bit. Where do you see it going in the next 5 years for you?
Great question. I've thought that one through a lot. It's interesting with government regulation,
Mhm.
right? And I spent half the year this year wondering if we're going to be in business.
Yeah.
which is never
Or,
fun.
or what we're going to do, or how we're going to be in the business.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I try to anchor my life in principles, and true principles always prevail. And so, there's a lot of things I cannot control, but I can control my own personal habits. I can
Yeah.
control my own personal work effort. And each day I love to wake up and try to win my day, and what that'll typically look like is some form of physical exercise. I think I'm by nature a little bit of a grinder. I like doing like those Ironmans and stuff.
Yeah.
And so some type of a physical exercise, and then also some quiet time to read, to ponder, to try to become spiritually connected. And I just know if I win each and every day. Another thing, I have 5 children. They mean the world to me, and I try to connect with those kids every single day.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is the love of my life. Try to connect with her each and every day. So for me, after I do those things, I've won my day.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I go out and I try to make a living and try to make an impact with whomever and however I can.
Yeah. You mentioned to Ironman. How many of those have you done?
I've done just one full one is
Okay.
all. So
how many halves?
Halves I've done 4 now.
Wow.
So,
you got another one in the works?
Yeah, I'm signed up again. I just go down to St. George every May. So it's like 6 months I train for that, and then 6 months I try to put on some muscle. Not filling my shirt out too well, but try to.
You need it, man. That's exerting.
So we're getting old, so trying to stay young.
Yeah. So how long is a half?
Half is you swim 1.2 miles, bike 56, then you run a half marathon.
And how long does it take you? What's your best time?
My best time, I did St. George in 5 hours and 15 minutes, which
Wow.
was, I think, considered pretty decent. For me, it was great. But again, it's like I love to try to get better. The process of improving in anything we do, I love it, and so even with that, I'm trying to think, how can I swim a little faster? How can I bike a little faster?
Mm-hmm.
Start spending stupid money on, if I buy an $8,000 bike, that's got to be better, right? I have to be faster.
Does it
work? I don't know yet.
You got it.
I really want to go buy one.
Oh, you haven't bought it yet. Okay.
I think I will. I was talking to my wife. She said that's ridiculous, but I kind of might need it. So we'll see.
Well, my wife did as a half marathon with the bike and stuff, and
Yeah.
she used the bike one time, and she's like, it sits in the garage because she's like, it's not that she doesn't mind riding it, it's all the cars. She's like, they don't pay attention.
Right.
And she's like, she went to stop and someone about cut her off, and she's like, I'm not worth, my life's worth more than that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So she quit. Well, she didn't. Yeah. She'd go back one day, but it's hanging in the garage. So she does bodybuilding instead.
Yes.
You're not out on the road.
Yeah. Just having that passion, right, and having I think it's good for us to strive as human beings, right?
Push yourself.
I spent 20 years like talking about retirement. Like I don't believe in retirement. Like you've got to have purpose, you've got to have passion, you've got to have a reason to wake up in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe those things will change for me, going forward. But you have to wake up with that every single day in order to have a fulfilling life.
Yeah. Well, you said you had 5 kids, and it just reminded me of being, passion and purpose. I'm at a point in my life where my kids are not in the house. Like if the weekend comes around, they're gone, and it's quiet, and I'm like, I'm kind of bothered.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm asking my wife, where are they? When they coming home? Do we have anything tonight? She's like, no, we're good. And I'm like, we don't got anything tonight. We don't have cheer. We don't have football. We don't have lacrosse. We don't have anything. And I'm just like, I don't like it.
Yeah. It's an interesting phase, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like right now they're on fall break, and they're not getting home until 10 or 10:30, and they're gone when I get home.
Oh man.
So I mean, I have to like go out of my way to find them. You're talking about connecting with your 5 kids throughout the day. I'm like, I have to text them on a family chat and be like, hey, I love you all. It's like, good to see you, Dad. Whatever.
It's tough. My oldest is actually serving a mission right now, learning Spanish. My second, he's 16, and I actually tell him, hey, we're best friends. He's like, Dad, I want to go hang out with my friends. I'm like, I am your friend. Let's go hang out.
Just schedule time.
All the time. He's like, and he fought me for a while, but I think he's starting to learn Dad's actually kind of fun. I'm like, dude, you want to go boating? You want to go? What do you want to go do? Let's go do something fun.
So, bring your buddies or something. Yeah, like, oh wow.
He tries to avoid me a little bit, but I think he's given in and realized his dad's actually a good time. So
yeah, you're just like, wow, it's so quiet. This is not normal.
Yeah,
because I mean, just think about the last 20 years. You've had someone chirping to your dad, mom, dad,
oh yeah,
going.
That's great.
Well, thank you for being on the show and sharing your story. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with the audience? Any inspiring stories? Maybe both. Maybe an inspiring story and then any last thoughts, like something that's like, hey, I really wanted to. I don't ever go into the show like, hey, I have ideas like what I want to talk about, but any inspiring stories and then last thoughts.
Yeah, I would say inspiring stories to me is somebody living their passion and somebody taking risks and being rewarded for those risks. And when I say risks, sometimes changing a career path can be difficult or hard. Or sometimes creating the life that you want is a risk and challenging. And I love effort. And I feel like too often in today's world, people want to be a victim. They don't want to take control. They don't want to take responsibility. And, the more responsibility and integrity with which you can live your life, the happier that life is going to be for somebody.
Good stuff. It
Yeah.
reminded me one little thing is I listened to a talk, Nick Saban, everybody knows who Nick Saban is from Alabama, and he says it's easy to be normal. He's like, you could go through life just being normal, but if you want to be great or you want to be the best, that takes a different type of person. And given the amount of people he's coached and what he's brought the best out of people, in a sports environment, but yet the legacy that he's able to leave, and it's going to carry with those people forever.
Yeah, isn't it funny how he left college football because he said, I'm no longer building young men because now they leave for money or for playing time with that transfer portal, and he's like, I'm out, right? His impact, he felt like he didn't have it anymore in the same context, but even just leaving is such an impact and inspiring, and being true to himself, and I feel like too often people allow mediocrity, they settle for mediocrity.
Yeah.
And I love motivational things. I listen to a lot of different as do you, I know, but even that speech of get up and make your bed, right? Make your bed, do something, get a win, and every single day do a few things to get a win, and winning is a habit, right?
Yes.
And And if you win in your personal life, then you're also going to win outside as well. And so too often people spend too much time, you know, consuming television or, you know, pointless scrolling, you know, instead of like putting themselves, like making themselves get better. And I really think that that would be, you know, the message that I hope more people can have. That would be my message. Like, strive to be better every day, work hard, improve in every aspect of your life that you can.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show. And always share, like, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.